About to say it's Monday.
Welcome to Chicago Live, and thank you for joining us on this Monday afternoon. We have a lot to cover today. I'll go through just a couple of the stories that we are working on for today, and that includes a new law that will tighten emergency training requirements at daycare centers across the state. Pretty soon here, we will be chatting with an Illinois state representative who spearheaded this new law. Sadly, a toddler who passed away because daycare workers at the facility that he was at were not properly trained. And this new law will ensure that if there are more than 12 children in any given daycare center, that at least 2 employees and staff members who are working that shift are trained in CPR. So we will be bringing in that Illinois state representative very shortly here. We will also have an in-studio guest. Alderman Brian Hopkins will be joining us to talk about the Cortlandt Street Bridge. It's been closed for quite some time, and it is now going to be closed for several more years, as a new study shows that there's a lot more work to be done on it than was originally anticipated. So we will have Alderman Hopkins in here to join us to talk about that as well. And a Mundelein pet rescue, Reach Rescue. They are looking for the public's help. We have covered this rescue before. They were one of the organizations that assisted in a hoarding situation when a lot of dogs were found in a home up north, and they were one of the organizations that stepped in to help take those animals in and nurse them back to health. Well, this rescue says they are running out of funding and they are looking for some support right now. So we will be chatting with a group that is going to be holding a fundraiser for them. So first, though, we want to bring in our guest that will be joining us to talk about that law that will protect children in daycare centers. We want to introduce Illinois State Representative Martin McLaughlin, who is joining us now to talk a little bit more about this. Hi, State Rep, are you with us?
Yes. Good afternoon, Casey. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for being here to discuss this important topic with us. If you could, give us a little bit of background on this specific situation that inspired this, a tragic situation that all of us wish never happened.
Yeah, so I was reached out to by a family, the Walters family, regarding a tragic incident of their 23-month-old son, Caleb, who had passed away at a daycare center in my district. And this was in the fall of 2023. Caleb, unfortunately, passed away with circumstances that were unknown at a daycare. And Felicia, his mother, said, you know, we'd like to become advocates and have something positive come out of this tragedy. And so we began at that time to construct a bill that would have at minimum 2 CPR and Heimlich trained professionals at any daycare center over 12 students. And that began what really was a difficult 3-year process to get to the bill that was just recently signed by the governor.
And it's just so tragic that this happened in the first place. That little boy was just 23 months old. What has it been like to work with Caleb's family over the last few years as you've worked to get this signed into law?
Yeah, the bravery of Felicia and John Paul, the parents, really was what brought it over the finish line. They testified twice in subcommittee trying to convince the legislature that this was a good proactive law that would protect all children. The one thing that I was amazed is that it didn't exist currently in law. And speaking with Felicia, and I mentioned that I had coached sports for 22 years, and we couldn't enter a playing field without 2 parents that were CPR trained. So imagining that standard didn't exist for daycares, Felicia and John Paul went to work with myself and others on the other side of the aisle, and we put together a law that was signed, and we think it's going to protect children moving forward, and what a courageous thing for parents to advocate for after such a tragedy.
And tell us a little bit more about when exactly this will go into effect. We understand it is not until next year, but what exactly will this require?
So it'll require any daycare center with 12 or more students will have 2 CPR trained and certified workers on the premises at all times, along with Heimlich maneuver. The old law only required 1 CPR person, and they could be in management. So they may not have been on the floor or in the general care area. So this would mandate that there would be at least 2, and these would be the basic training that would be required for CPR and Heimlich maneuver. The good thing here is there were some questions about home daycare centers, and so there's a trailer bill that I believe is going to be done in veto session that'll just specifically speak to 12 or under home daycare centers will not have to comply with this law based as the language is written.
And Representative McLaughlin, tell us a little bit about how this is going to be enforced. You mentioned about the home daycares, but how is this going to be enforced? Will there be inspectors going to these daycares to check up on whether they are complying?
Yeah, I don't know. Can you still see me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I'm sorry about the complying question. What was the question, Casey?
Will there be folks heading out to daycare centers to check on whether they are complying with the new requirements?
Well, I believe it's going to start in January, and we already have state agencies that go through annual reviews with these centers. So I would imagine it would be part of what would be checked up on. And the nice part is that the training's offered from so many fire departments, Lake County Department of Health. There's many out there that offer free training, so it shouldn't be an economic burden on the businesses. And frankly, I think it's beyond time that we have this kind of protection for our most important resource, our children.
Absolutely. Is there anything else that you want to share with our viewers?
Yeah, I think this is a great example. Springfield doesn't always get everything right, but in this instance, I think you can really see that legislators working together, taking politics aside, can actually produce protections for our kids. I'm very proud to be part of it. Representative Joyce Mason, the chairwoman of the committee, and I, on the other side of the aisle, worked hard to get this move forward, and I think it's a good example, occasionally, what can be done effectively in Springfield. So I'm very proud of the measure.
And before we let you go on that note, was this refreshing to see that there was bipartisan support for this bill?
Yes. I mean, you know, we can politicize the color of gray paint in Springfield, but in this instance, we had people come together and say, this is something that makes sense, doesn't cost businesses money, and will provide protections. To me, it was a no-brainer. It still took 3 years to accomplish, but I did mention to the Walters family, I gave them a timeline of 3 years, and so I think we got in just under the wire there. But the kids we're going to protect moving forward is what's most important here.
And how is the family feeling? Are they feeling relieved that they are seeing this become enacted very soon here?
Yes, I've been in contact with the family continuously, and a bright news for the family, and of course it would never replace Caleb, but they're expecting their second son this September, so their family is growing, and we're going to get together in September in Springfield and just have an event honoring Caleb and the fact that this has moved forward. So I believe it's going to be private, but I'm happy to do that with the family. They have been real, I mean, the fact of the courage of coming and testifying twice, thinking of others instead of themselves is really inspiring, and I'm very proud to be, you know, their friend and their state representative. But to me, it's above and beyond, and I'm very excited to honor their son in this way.
Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time, State Rep.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, stay with us here on Chicago Live. I do just want to take you out real quick before we go to a break to a look at the Bean. It is a gorgeous day out today. A lot of people enjoying Millennium Park outside today. And later on, J.D. Rudd will be coming in studio to break down all of the weather that we've got in store for us coming up this week. As we mentioned, you know, there are still people without power in Northwest Indiana, and tomorrow marks 2 weeks since the storm swept through the area. Indiana Governor Mike Braun now calling out NIPSCO for the fact that it has taken this long to get the lights back on. So we'll be diving into that a little bit more later in the show. But for now, let's take a quick break and we will be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. There is a lot to cover, not only here in the Chicago area, but also across the nation. We do want to take you out to a trial that is underway, the murder trial of Tupac Shakur. We want you to listen in for just a little bit. We like to bring you out to what's going on, not just here, but also across the nation. This trial is unfolding in Las Vegas, and it has been underway for several weeks now. We'll take you out. Just listen in.
About that too? You just told me about your book. No, I'm talking about the meeting. I don't know. But is there any truth to that? What? That Orlando agreed to a deal to testify for sure? Okay, all right, sorry. What's that? We're not gonna go to that one. Okay. I'm gonna save me something for my motherfucking book. Goddamn, no surprises. Hey, homie, yeah. You did your work though. I'm not even right. I see.
Well, next time we talk, I'm gonna drill you on those. There's no.
All right.
There's no escaping it. Nora, are we good? Do you have anything?
I was wondering
feel comfortable talking about that? She said, can you talk about the hierarchy of for me, like in the game business? Yeah, like how, how's the structure? Like how's
Yeah, you look at me, don't look at her.
Okay. At the codes of the street, our gang is built through respect and the work you put in. And as far as power, you know what I'm saying? That's the way our gang is. You got the double OGs, OGs, OBGs, BGs, in the TGs.
Tell him where he was.
And the OTSs and that's where our game is instructed. So I could fall in the double OG because I was there when the gang was instructed. So this way it goes. People you either become a gang banger as you get older or a gangster. Or go to school or get a job. You know what I'm saying? About 25, that's when you determine whether you're gonna be who you're gonna be. You're gonna be a gang banger, a little, you know what I'm saying, drinking, smoking weed, stuff all day long, with your pants hanging down. Or you gonna get a job, that means you out the game. Or you gonna become a gangster, you know what I'm saying, for the game. You know, that's where our game is structured, yeah.
Do you think that Suge ran the label like a gang?
Yeah. Yes. He kind of hired all gang members. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. He hired all gang members.
So who was he in the structure?
Who was Suge in the structure? I guess his money gave him the power. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And how people listen to him. You know, money is power. You know, and shit, I guess they... Well, we knew he was a boss, and the Crips did. I know our side of town did, because we played football with the guy. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I want to go back to the Biggie night. Where were you, and how did you hear the Biggie had died? Your phone's ringing. We're almost done. I got you.
His wife, she on me.
Just 5 more minutes, I promise.
Okay.
Where were you, and how did you hear that Biggie had died?
I was under the parking garage, and everybody ran back up under the parking garage and said, "They just killed Biggie! They just killed Biggie!" I'm like, "What?" I'm like, damn, that was fucked up. And by then, all the LAPDs was there, and I was waiting on my car to get valeted up out of there and shit. Valeted up out of there. Then 3 days later, punk-ass Compton police and crooked motherfuckers pulled nephew over and said, "You guys killed Biggie too?" I'm like, no, this is bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Some bullshit. They run down there. They just played dirty pool with us, dog. You know what I'm saying? I was really like a fall guy. To me, fucked over me, man. Fucked over my life.
You were just listening in to the murder trial of Tupac Shakur. On trial for that murder is Dwayne Davis. This is for the 1996 killing of Tupac Shakur. That trial taking place out of Las Vegas. Switching gears now, trade negotiations between the U.S. and Canada crumbled in recent days. Canada now saying they want to hit the U.S. with tariffs of their own. We want to bring in Professor Alan Sanders from St. Peter's University in New Jersey to talk a little bit more about this and what it means for us. Hi, Professor, are you here?
I am here. Nice to be with you.
You as well. Thank you so much for joining us today. Just to begin, paint the picture for our viewers on where negotiations stand right now between the U.S. and Canada.
Well, apparently they're at a standstill. Negotiations were going forward, but as of this weekend, they have stopped. Canada said it's stopping to negotiate because the demands of the U.S. are far too onerous and far too unfair from their point of view. The United States is saying that, no, I think we have provided Canada with fair terms. So it's hard to know where things stand. But one thing is clear. Donald Trump has used tariffs, which are actually a tax on the American people, So he's used taxes on American people to browbeat partners in trade, not just Canada, but around the world. And many of those partners are starting to react. And Canada has said that it will react. It will impose its own tariffs and its own economic sanctions against the United States. So unless one or the other side moves from whatever its positions are at the moment, expect that many things in the U.S. will continue to be more expensive than they were before Donald Trump assumed power.
And is this something that we can see, especially as we head into the holidays, is prices continue to go up on goods of really any kind? Or do you think this will affect specific items and industries?
Well, it would certainly affect specific industries because tariffs are targeting specific goods. But as long as prices stay high, most consumers will simply say, oh, look, it's all these tariffs. It's Canada. It's the trade negotiations with Canada. It's trade negotiation with these partners. They won't differentiate. Affordability is a real issue, and Americans are concerned about that. And they see, many of them anyway, not all of them, but many of them see tariffs as contributing to the high price of goods. But I should point out another element here beyond the economic impact on American consumers. Trade partners of the United States have started to view the United States as an unreliable partner, and that should concern Americans in the longer term. Canada has said quite explicitly that it's going to look to the Europeans for more of its trade and try to negotiate agreements with the European Union instead of the United States, because it views the U.S. as an unreliable economic partner. And you'll see that increasing among the Europeans themselves, because Trump's trade wars, basically using tariffs, have been very disruptive of their economies, as not just ours. And so many people are looking how to stabilize things without the U.S. being an interfering element.
And talk a little bit more specifically about the industries that now Trump is threatening to hit back on. I'm seeing cars, automobile parts, and steel in particular.
Yeah, those are, of course, very important elements to trade and to the economic situation of the upper Midwest. Cars, steel, trucks, auto parts. The auto industry is pretty much integrated between Canada and the United States. And so any tariffs, whether imposed by the United States or Canada, because Canada has also threatened some of these industries, means that those industries have to look for alternatives, if they can find alternatives, to obtain the parts and equipment that they need, or else face the possibility of putting higher costs into their manufacture, because they need the components, and that means, of course, ultimately higher costs for American consumers. So the economies of the upper Midwest and the labor force of the upper Midwest will certainly be impacted by tariffs involving autos, cars, and car parts and steel. And it's not just the labor forces that will be impacted, but then, of course, the costs get passed on to consumers wherever they may be in the United States.
And Professor Sanders, where do you see these talks going between the U.S. and Canada? Right now, they're at a standstill. Any word on perhaps them starting back up again?
Well, President Trump has threatened tariffs before on many countries, including Canada in the past. And then when push comes to shove, when he sees or he is told by his aides what the economic impact will be on American consumers and the American economy more broadly, he backs down. And of course, as we all know, Wall Street has coined a new term regarding Trump and tariffs, taco Trump, meaning Trump always, gives in, taco Trump. It tends to happen on Tuesdays, so it's called Taco Tuesday, But we'll see. We'll see whether it actually comes to be this time around. But certainly, threatening tariffs and then backing down from them has been something that the president has done fairly often during his second term in office.
All right. Well, tomorrow being Tuesday, we will see perhaps what happens then. Professor, thank you so much. Any other insight that you would like to offer to our viewers?
Well, just keep watching what the president actually does. It's not so much what he says in many instances, but it's what he actually does. And so one needs to keep an eye on what these tariff negotiations will ultimately turn out to be if they continue, if the Trump administration backs down, or if, in fact, the higher costs from these tariffs will go on. Also, one thing to point out is all of these tariffs, no matter what they are subject to litigation. So one should also keep an eye on the courts.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us, Professor. We appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Take care.
Thank you. You as well. All right. Thank you so much for watching us here on Chicago Live. We've got a lot more to unpack in the next couple of hours. We're going to take a quick break, but first I'll leave you with this gorgeous shot of the city right now overlooking Grant Park and our beautiful skyline. It is a really nice day out there today. As I mentioned, JD will pop in just a little bit to talk more about all things weather. But for now, we will take a quick break and we will be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Thank you so much for watching us this afternoon. Earlier, we brought you out to the murder trial of Tupac Shakur in Las Vegas. Now we want to switch gears and take you out to the trial of Lindsay Clancy that has been underway for several weeks now. As you know, as we've talked about, this woman, Lindsay Clancy, is accused of strangling her 3 young children back in 2023, but her defense is arguing that she was in a state of postpartum psychosis at the time. Let's listen in.
The voice said, "This is your last chance. You have to kill the kids so you can kill yourself." If she actually heard a voice like that, that would be evidence of psychosis being experienced and what we call command hallucinations, where the voice is instructing her to do something. There were some other possible things that made me think that it could be a severe mental illness that she was experiencing, and 2 in particular. One was thinking that others might know her thoughts. Now, this is something that is a symptom of psychosis called thought broadcasting if it's experienced in a certain way. In thought broadcasting, if I'm experiencing that, I literally have the idea that if I'm thinking it, you can hear. what I'm saying, just as if I were putting it on the television or a podcast or a movie or whatever. It's just coming out that way. I asked her about that, and she said, and other people asked her about that too, and she said it was not thought broadcasting, but these were very vivid thoughts, and she thought that it might be that people could hear them as vivid and strong as they were. The second possible symptom is that thinking police might take her children. Now, in some of the records I saw people saying, well, this looks like a paranoid delusion to me. And I will tell you that it didn't look either paranoid or like a delusion to me. And here's why. I'm a healthcare professional, and that means that in Pennsylvania and every other state I know, I'm a mandated reporter. If someone tells me in therapy or in an assessment that they think that a child is going to be injured or severely hurt or that might happen, then I'm required by law to contact Childline in Pennsylvania. Ms. Clancy is a labor and delivery nurse. She's a healthcare professional as well. And so it's one of those things where if she had said to a psychiatrist, psychologist, anyone providing treatment, that she thought she was experiencing ideas like she might harm her kids, she would know as a mandated reporter that they were legally required to report that. Now, that might not mean that the police would literally come and take her kids away, but it would mean that there would be an investigation. She would have to answer questions, and it might be that for a period of time she would be separated from the children.
And Doctor, is it?
Well, can she answer?
I thought he was done.
I don't know. Well, we'll find out. Were you done?
I just want to ask a follow-up question about your last point. Is that okay?
Oh, yes, that's okay.
And so you mentioned you didn't think it was a delusion. Is it true that a delusion is a fixed false belief?
Yes, that's the way it's defined.
And so Ms. Clancy, thinking that if someone knew she thought of harming her kids might be taken away, that's not a false belief, correct?
Well, that was what I was trying to say, is that it is not a false belief. It's quite possible that it could come to pass.
And if you could continue with your discussion of why the evidence you saw for acute psychosis.
Yes. The other point there at the bottom is that it's appealing as an explanation because it could explain acts that seem so out of character for her. You don't have to get complicated at all. It's just, I had a psychotic episode. I heard a voice. The voice told me to do something terrible. I did it.
And after considering the evidence for acute psychosis, command hallucinations, did you then consider evidence against acute psychosis with command hallucinations?
I did, yes.
And what did you see?
One of the reasons, well, the first bullet point here is that the way she described this as happening is that she heard a voice that she'd never heard before.
You are listening in to the murder trial of Lindsay Clancy. This has been going on for several weeks and will continue into this week. At this point, the prosecutors are in their rebuttal as the defense rested last week. We do want to change topics. We are going to be heading out to Oak Lawn, where we will be bringing in the mayor to talk a little bit about what's just been legalized in Oak Lawn and Alsip. This will legalize security foggers. It will essentially allow businesses to implement a new resource to help them fight back against burglars. We do want to introduce now Mayor Terry Vorderer from Oak Lawn. Hi, Mayor. How are you today?
Good afternoon. I'm doing great. And yourself?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you so much, and happy Monday. Tell us a little bit about what has just been legalized in Oak Lawn. Explain this to our viewers. This is the first time I've heard about a security fogger before. Is it essentially like a fog machine?
Well, as I understand it, first off, I believe that the region has experienced hundreds of these break-ins to these video gaming parlors. Oklahoma itself has experienced a number of them. These foggers, as I understand it, are a second type alarm system which establishments can install into their businesses. It's pretty secure system. Not only will the alarm go off when they break in, but there's a second system where the foggers will go off when somebody enters a region of about 6 foot to these machines. And as I understand it, in speaking with the alarm companies, these foggers will make the visibility of the machines almost impossible to see, which would be a deterrent because these offenders have been using sledgehammers and pry bars to smash these machines. And they have been entering and exiting these businesses within less than a minute. So these machines these alarm systems are intended to deter these type of things. Now, I was concerned about the type of fogging and chemicals that might be used to do this from a safety point of view. And I'm told that these are safe. They are sugar-based fogging systems. And again, they don't go off until the offenders are within 6 feet of the machines. Hopefully, this will be an additional deterrent to slow this crime wave that we've been experiencing here in the region. I was told that over 700 break-ins have occurred in the recent past. Oklahoma, like I said, probably has experienced 10, 12 of these incidents. And they seem to be incidents, they repeat the locations. The amount of money that goes into these machines is available to anybody online. And I'm assuming these criminals know this and target the locations which have the most gaming.
And Mayor,
so hopefully,
is it that there's actually cash in these machines, and that is what these these offenders who are doing this, that's what they're targeting, is to actually get the cash out of the machines?
That's correct. They destroy the machines themselves, which I understand are valued at about $30,000 a piece. But they must be pretty easy to access with a sledgehammer, and they take the cash boxes from the machines before they flee. But they leave behind a lot of destruction. And from the village's point of view, not only are the businesses suffering, but our police department, their time and energy is used to deter these crimes, not to mention putting cars in parking lots in the early morning hours. But the investigation takes a lot of time and effort of our police department. So hopefully this will be a deterrent.
And what have you heard from the business owners who have these video gaming machines in their places of business? Have they been the ones showing up to meetings and pushing for this?
No, I haven't spoken any directly with businesses. I did speak with one who was targeted a couple of times, and they've installed some gating system that comes down at the end of the day or the end of the business hours, and it prevents them from coming in, but they're like steel grates that come down. So the industry is looking for ways itself to deter this crime. And these foggers are another tool to be used by our businesses. So we changed our alarm ordinances to allow these foggers. After thorough investigation by our fire department, there were some concerns about safety issues for the fire department if they go in. But I've been told by the alarm companies that when the alarm is triggered, they immediately notify the police department and the fire department, and then they make a second notice if, in fact, the foggers are done. And they tell me that within 15 minutes after these foggers go off, the businesses are cleared of this fog, and they can go back to regular operations.
And that was my next question, is if anyone's walking by any of these establishments and they see the fog and mistake it for smoke, will the fire department be involved in knowing when these alarms go off?
Yes, that's what the alarm companies tell me. They notify our fire department when the smoke alarms go off. And of course, the fire chief will decide if they do a response. The police, of course, will be there immediately. And if there's any safety issues, they'll be there to guide citizenry and things of that nature. But again, these go off generally after the businesses are closed, and there shouldn't be anybody in there at the time that they go off.
All right. Thank you so much, Mayor Vorderer. Anything else that you want to share with our viewers about this, or perhaps something else going on in Oak Lawn?
Oak Lawn is a great town. I'm happy to be its mayor. I was born here. I probably end my life here. I've had 34 years as a police officer in Oak Lawn and a number of years as an elected official. I have 5 years in as the mayor, and I see my responsibilities as number one, public safety. I often say that potholes are important, but if we don't have public safety, nothing else counts. So I'm happy to be its mayor, and I bring my many years of experience as a police officer and help guiding our town into the future.
Mayor Vorderer, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for reaching out.
All right, we'll talk again soon. Thanks so much. Okay, stay with us here on Chicago Live. We are going to head out in a moment to the Rose Garden where President Trump is speaking. But first, we will take a quick break and we will head out there when we come back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. We mentioned that we would be taking you out to the Rose Garden, and that's where we are heading next. President Donald Trump is there speaking about school choice. Let's listen in.
Biological sons and 2 foster children. School choice and education freedom scholarships are going to give these kids more opportunity than ever before. And I'd like to ask Caleb and Jocelyn to come up and say a few words, please. How are you? Nice to see you. Thank you very much.
This is my lovely family. Mr. President, thank you for the honor of speaking today. I'm Pastor Caleb Griffith, and I'm joined by my 5 beautiful children. As President Trump said, 2 of them came to us through foster care, which is wonderful. But my children, one of them has autism, and one has developmental delays. And although they qualify for an IEP, because of the situation, they were unable to get them. So we've been unable to access the support and help they need to be successful. And we're blessed to be from a state that offers school choice, and it has helped part of our children's educational needs. I personally have seen the benefit of the Opportunity Scholarship for my family and the school my children attend, Cornerstone Christian Academy, who is up for running for the Yaz Prize. But it's thanks to great organizations like Parents for Educational Freedom, who have helped 105,000 families just like mine access the Opportunity Scholarship. And now, because of you, Mr. President, and because of you, Secretary McMahon, the Educational Freedom tax credits will give my children the access to the services they need to be successful in the most formational years of their lives. I want to tell you, we only get one chance to educate our children, and our children are the future of America. The Bible says to train up a child in the way that they should go, and that's to parents, and this allows parents to do that. So on behalf of my family and every family in America that will access this, thank you, President Trump, and God bless America.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. What a great job. Beautiful, beautiful family. Whoop. He made it. Well, as many of you know, no one cares more about America's children and foster youth than our great First Lady. She works hard at it and loves the children. Through her Fostering the Future initiative, Melania is helping transform the lives of children and young people aging out of the foster care system. And she's bringing hope and countless, and you have to see so many people, so many phone calls, so much work, but really bringing hope to countless numbers of families and children, and it's really something to see. It's so difficult. They go through foster care, and then all of a sudden they're released into the world. And, you know, many people have something to fall back on, but they don't. They can't go back to their parents for a little help or for staying overnight or for staying for years in some cases. And it's a very, very tough. So I want to thank Melania. She takes it so seriously. She's done such a great job. It's been so effective. Thank you. And as part of the great, big, beautiful bill, we have massively expanded 529 education saving accounts tremendously, doubling the annual withdrawal cap from K-12 expenses to $20,000 a year, and allowing families to save the education and money for education at the private or religious school of your choice. So that's something that never happened before. Nobody could even think about doing it. They can't believe it's happened now. And it's largely Linda and her representatives that have done this. And now, for the first time ever, families can also have their 529 accounts to support homeschool education. And then, thank you. And then one of the biggest things of all is what's happened with the Trump accounts, where kids will have money. I mean, every child is given at birth, newborn, $1,000. And you're going to watch that money grow. People like Michael and Susan Dell have put up a tremendous amount of money, over $6 billion. But we have many people. Some people have taken on an entire state, like the state of Indiana, by a very, very fantastic friend of mine, Brad. Thank you very much. And some very wealthy people and very wealthy companies are putting up tremendous amounts of money. The Trump accounts is being talked about all over the world. It's very good and very hot. Joining us today, Marina and Hubert from Jacksonville, Florida. They've been homeschooling their 3 children for 11 years and will benefit enormously from the new policy. The amount of money they're getting is something that they can very much use, and it's something that wouldn't have happened without the Trump administration. So Marina and Hubert, please come up and say a few words. Hi.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. President, thank you so much for this opportunity to be here. I have with me my beautiful family, my wife, Marina. We homeschool our 3 kids. We've been homeschooling for the last decade. My oldest son is going into 9th grade, my daughter going into 6th, and my youngest son is going into 3rd grade. Homeschooling is something that is very personal to me. Back in 1988, my parents made the decision to homeschool me. And so I was homeschooled from kindergarten all the way through the 12th grade. And I've been blessed with the opportunity to do the same for my family. Back in 1988, homeschooling wasn't popular. And there was not, I don't think, a president who was supporting us. At this time, to see your administration and all that you've done for homeschooling families not only means the world to me, but to also all the other homeschooling families that are out there. With the great big beautiful bill, the expansion of 529, oftentimes with homeschooling, there were one-income households because I'm working and my wife is schooling the kids. So being able to have the extra resources to provide them with their needs and also the option to support our children in the way that we see fit means the world. So I just want to thank you for everything that you've done.
Great parents. You have great parents.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. That's beautiful. Beautiful family. Thank you. Well, I'm very proud to say that the Trump administration's achieved more for the benefit of Americans' children in less than 2 years than most administrations do in many years. 8 years, or frankly, you can take 2 or 3 administrations, put them together. They haven't been able to do what we did. After decades of racist policies and illegal quotas, we brought back the merit system into education. We're back on the merit system, which is what made our country great in the first place, so that our children will always be judged by the achievements and qualifications, not by the color of their skin or any other reason. We issued a guidance for protecting the right to prayer, and we now protect prayer in the public schools. They're totally protected. And last year, I signed a historic executive order to begin the process of eliminating the Federal Department of Education, getting them out of Washington, and bringing education back to the states, the most important thing. And working with me on the Council on Physical Fitness, we've proudly brought back a wonderful tradition, the Presidential Fitness Test. I signed the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act, which people loved, and the farmers love it because they know how good it is more than anybody. But the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act, they weren't allowed to have whole milk, if you can believe it. They could have anything else, but they couldn't have great milk the way it is supposed to be, paving the way for more than 30 million children who drink whole milk in school. And we introduced the Real Food Pyramid and reformed the vaccine recommendations to protect America's youth. We're making America healthy again. We're strongly requesting, even telling people when you get your shots for your young child, and this has to do, we think, with preventing autism, that you go to the doctor for 5 small shots instead of 1 big, massive shot. You do it in 5 different shots. 5 different shots, small little shots where those beautiful little bodies can handle it. And I think you're going to see a very big difference in the rate of autism, which is like an epidemic, what's happened with autism. And this year, as we celebrate the 250th anniversary of America's founding, we're also bringing back patriotic education for our youth through the Freedom 250 Mobile Museum. Students from over 3,750 schools are learning about the heroes who have made America the most exceptional nation in history. And we're teaching our children to love America, not to hate America. There's a lot of love going on right now. Our country's never done this well. We have billions and billions of different things happening, money pouring in at the rate of not even billions, trillions, over $19 trillion being invested in America right now. The last administration had less than $1 trillion in 4 years. We had 19, more than 19, 19.2 to be exact, and that's over a period of 12 months. We haven't even included the additional 5 months. So there's never been anything like that in history. No other country in the world has ever had investment like we're having right now being made, which is building factories, car plants, everything, all over, AI, all over the country at levels that nobody's ever seen before. No other country has ever seen what's happened. It's a revolution, a positive revolution. So in everything we do, we're empowering our nation's parents, we're restoring high standards and the pursuit of excellence, and we're proving that the golden age of America education is just beginning. And I want to thank you all for being here. You're incredible people. I know so many of you in the audience, but one in particular who's just an outstanding person, an incredible woman, Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon. Please come up, Linda. Thank you.
We'll get it down to my speed, which is always the case when I come up to the microphone. We have to adjust it. Thank you, Mr. President, for assembling this incredible event this afternoon, because nothing is more important in our country than educating our students. Parents, educators, and students, happy back to school season. This school year marks a return to common sense in American education, and it's all thanks to the leadership of our president, President Trump. I remember when President Trump called me shortly after the Biden's administration 2024 Nations Report Card, or NAEP, as you've heard, scores were released, and he told me he was angry and he was also embarrassed by where these scores were. We spoke about what a travesty it is that Americans have invested $3 trillion in a federal Department of Education meant to improve student outcomes, and yet only 30% of our students can read or do math proficiently. This is why President Trump demanded a hard reset to our education system. And under his leadership, we are delivering it. We are taking very deliberate and thoughtful steps to return education to the states. This school year, American parents and students have so much to be excited about because the Trump administration is steering education back to its rightful focus, serving students so that they are prepared for successful futures. Our administration has cut billions in funding for radical DEI programs and redirected those dollars to teachers, classrooms, and results, supporting evidence-based literacy instruction, pouring record funding into charter schools, and energizing workforce training. Key decisions that once sat with bureaucrats here in Washington, D.C. are moving to where they belong, to the hands of educators, parents, and local leaders who know these children best. 6 states now hold the first ever returning education to the state waivers, freeing over $100 million from federal micromanagement. These waivers allow state leaders to direct federal dollars towards what makes the most sense for their students and not what Washington thinks is best for those students. Additionally, a record 25 states are exercising EdFlex authority, which allows them to immediately free thousands of local school districts from mountains of red tape without first having to receive approval from the Department of Education. And under President Trump's leadership, we are restoring parents' sacred role as the first decision makers in their children's lives. Children belong to their parents, not the federal government. And through the Education Freedom Tax Credit, President Trump has delivered the largest national expansion of education freedom in history for over 50 million eligible children, giving parents unprecedented freedom to choose the path that is best for their child. So it's no surprise that over half of our nation's states, both red and blue, have raced to this historic choice option, benefiting families whether their child attends public or private school. Parents can also rest assured that wherever their child goes to school, this administration is vigorously protecting their right to know what's happening inside those walls. After the Biden administration allowed schools to secretly transition students without parents' knowledge, President Trump is defending parental rights like never before. At his direction, we are working hand in hand with the Department of Justice to ensure no school district ever has more power over a child than their own parents. Thank you. We've exposed states like California for some of the most widespread offenses and put schools on notice. If they subject children to radical experiments and sideline parents, they will lose their federal funding. Never before have parental rights been enforced at this scale, and parents are back in the driver's seats where they rightfully belong. Across every facet of education, these reforms are truly driving the progress that many promised, but only President Trump has delivered. We are breaking the grip of the education monopoly in D.C. and putting the future of our children back into the hands of those who know them, love them, and are best positioned to help them reach their God-given potential. We will remember this as a turning point in our country, where thanks to President Trump's leadership, American education began to reclaim its place as the very best in the world. Thank you all, and have a great and wonderful school year.
Great job, honey.
Thank you, sir. Nice to see you. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Now, I don't know if anybody wants to do this, but I'm going to be walking down here in about 2 minutes to meet with the people that are building the heliport. And you'll see right alongside of it the great structure that's rising right next to the White House, and that's going to be the ballroom/military complex. It's incredible. Now, if anybody would like to walk with me, I don't know if Linda's going to have any big events happening now. I don't think so. But if you'd like to follow me, especially with the kids could see construction. I love the sound of construction. When I hear all that banging out there, some people say, oh, that's too bad. And I say, I love it. You know, so if anybody would like to follow me, it'll be a large group, but it's a large pad. And you'll be able to see some very hard-working people. They're working hard and they're making a lot of money and they're doing something great for America. And they've needed a heliport for many years here, and we're getting it all done. We're doing all the things that should have been done for years. So if you want to follow me with the children, I think it'll be very interesting. You'll bring your nice family, okay? Follow me. We'll come up here and we'll walk down. Good. Thank you.
You were just listening in to President Trump in the Rose Garden speaking on school choice. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We're going to take a quick break and we will be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Our next guest is joining us from our True Crime podcast. She will be speaking on the disappearance of Tammy Zwicky. Yesterday marked the 34-year anniversary since her disappearance, and we will be introducing you to Camille Anderson, who is one of the co-hosts of that podcast. Tammy Zwicky disappeared on August 23rd, of 1992, and there is a new lead in the case that Camille Anderson is here to break down. Hi, Camille, are you with us?
I sure am. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. So for our viewers who need a refresher on this case, can you give us just a little bit of a background on the disappearance of Tammy Zwicky before we dive in to what that new lead is?
You got it. Tammy was a college student. She was originally from the Chicago area, kind of the outskirts suburbs. She was on her way back to college, and her brother, she dropped her brother off. The car was a little bit older, as many college students, end up having, and her car broke down right outside of Joplin, Missouri. There were some witnesses that had seen her with a truck driver. He was described as somewhere between 35 and 45 years old, bushy, and about 6 foot tall. He was a white guy. And that was pretty much, she went missing right after that. And that was around 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Her body was discovered September 1st in a field. She had been stabbed brutally, also sexually assaulted. I'm not sure if that's out there and if I could say that, but it is. Since then, it's 34 years was the anniversary yesterday of her disappearance. This is a totally solvable case, so I'm very excited that they have found some DNA to a person named Teresa Bilecki, or Terry. She is not a suspect. She's only a person of interest in this case. She was apparently she was a very avid hitchhiker, traveling with a lot of truck drivers. Now, unfortunately, she did die in 2014. So what the Illinois State Police is doing is they're asking for the public's help to try to get to her inner circle, try to talk to friends, coworkers, other truck drivers. They're trying to find out who that truck driver was on that day that they saw Tammy with on the side of the road in Missouri.
And Camille, do investigators believe that this person of interest, who, as you mentioned, is no longer here, she has since passed away, do you think that in speaking with people who knew her, perhaps is it that maybe she told someone what she knew and that that's what they are trying to get to the bottom of right now?
I think that it could go either way. I believe that the police made a big deal about mentioning the state of California and a couple cities that were really big trucking routes. I think that possibly they know that maybe even if she doesn't know somebody or know this person, that she will know somebody that does know that person. I couldn't really exactly find it, but I believe that they got the DNA off of a blanket that Tammy's body was wrapped in, and that DNA came back to her. Investigators have also said that they have over 200 pieces of evidence, and they're retesting. And let me tell you, DNA for the win yet again. Keeps coming in.
And I was going to ask if you could just break down how advanced this DNA technology has become, even just in the last 10 years. We have seen so many cases that were previously unsolved become solved because of this new technology.
It is really insane. We've been doing this podcast 8 years, and even in the 8 years, it has changed touch DNA. I mean, that is unbelievable. I did a case where they like a vacuum from the touch DNA in a car, and they were able to I guess vacuum DNA off of the car seat. So it is truly amazing the things that they're doing. And I mean, every day, I know the yogurt shop murders in Texas, that was pretty much claimed to never have been solved. And in fact, it was solved with Robert Brashers, who incidentally had a Missouri tie, and I had covered that case as well. So it was it's just, I don't know. You can't hide with that DNA, and I'm pretty darn excited about all these cases. They're breaking nonstop.
And from what you have seen in your coverage of unsolved cases, murder mysteries, talk a little bit about why do you think investigators oftentimes reveal a new lead or a new reward around the anniversary of that person's disappearance or their death? Is it because people are already thinking about it, given that it is a milestone year? Or is there perhaps other background as to why they might choose that timing?
I think it's a couple things. One thing, she's been gone 34 years. There is a reward out. I think as people age, people die off. Maybe they're scared and they're relying on somebody maybe, having a conscience and coming forward and saying what they know. I think that they know that people will be paying attention, especially the perpetrator. It's pretty known that they come out and they want to watch the coverage and things like that. With her case, there were several items that went missing that's never been found. She was a yearbook photographer at her college. The Canon camera was stolen, namely a Loris watch that sang, or I guess the musical, it was Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head. That has never been found. There were some rumblings that maybe somebody could come forward. Maybe they got a gift, not knowing where the gift came from and not realizing who this item actually belonged to, meaning that it was Tammy's. There were some rumblings that a coworker of the wife of a potential suspect had such a watch. Now that's just a little hearsay and things like that, but that's what I think investigators, people do get worn down. Deathbed confessions are a thing. People get sick and they want to make everything right before they pass. And I think investigators this is a totally solvable case and they want people to come forward.
And Camille, tell us just why every small tip matters, even if someone doesn't think that it could crack the case, why those people should still come forward.
One of our big things is if you see something, say something. Every little bitty thing helps build something. The timeline of when she disappeared, what kind of truck it was. They have the decal on the side of the truck, but they've never been really able to put what company he worked for. Well, that alone would solve a lot because there's only so many people that would work that route at that time of year. So any little bitty thing, and we see so many things throughout the day and we don't think anything about it, but every little thing counts. You never know what you see, the timeline, the description of the person. And this trucker might not have anything to do with it. I doubt it. But that's why it's important for people to come forward. And this was a long time ago, 34 years ago. Tammy was my age. That's why this kind of stuck with me. And I, too, was going to school up in northern Missouri, which is where she cut through. So it's it's something, and it's time to be solved. Her loved ones and things like that need to have some closure of some sort.
Absolutely, especially after 34 years. Camille, thank you so much for joining us. If you could just tell our viewers how they can listen in to your podcast and what other cases you're covering are.
We have over 500 episodes. We drop every Wednesday without fail. We take 1 week off a year, and that's between Christmas and New Year's. You can check us out, our true crime podcast, real original, I know, and we are on all the major platforms. So, some big ones we have here. I know this is a little morbid, but there is a woman that is on death row, I believe, in Texas, and in September is her death penalty date. And so that's the one I'm working on right now.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Camille. And before we let you go, I am curious if you cover cases like the trial of Lindsay Clancy and what you make of where things stand right now in that trial.
We talk about it. We talk about that stuff nonstop. If you tune in, we try to let the evidence speak for itself. I think mental illness, especially postpartum, is a real thing. I think that we as a society haven't done enough to help with that. I don't think there's any question that most likely she did harm her children, but I think there was a lot of people that failed her along the way. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Camille. Please come back anytime. We appreciate you chatting with us.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Okay, and stay with us here on Chicago Live. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Our next guest is joining us from Lansing. We will be chatting here shortly with the CSBO Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Nathan Schilling, to talk a little bit about a new program that supports students' mental well-being. Hi, Dr. Schilling, are you with us?
I am, Casey. Thanks for having us today.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us. So just to start, tell us a little bit about this new program.
So Lansing School District 158 has implemented Class Catalyst to support our students with social emotional learning, health, and well-being. So our district adopted a new 5-year strategic plan in 2024, and part of that was adding a new district administrative position called Support Programs Coordinator. That position is staffed by Mr. Kenneth Byrne, who is on this call with me, and Ken was one of our associate principals at Coolidge Elementary School before moving into this role. Class Catalyst was really one of his significant initiatives to do a better job supporting the social emotional health of our students, especially coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic and seeing a greater need for that.
And what did you see during the COVID-19 pandemic in terms of students needing more support, mentally, emotionally? It was obviously a draining time for everyone, but depending on what grade a student was in, it could have taken a really great toll on them. What is some of what you saw in terms of being the greatest need?
So our school district did a very good job of providing for students' academic needs and continuing to progress them in their learning and curriculum remotely during the pandemic. But one thing that we found is that when students returned to in-person schooling is that they were not used to being around a classroom of 20, 25, 30 of their peers. especially the younger ones coming out of kindergarten, the younger grades, where their only experience with learning was virtually, there was a greater need to develop relational skills, develop the ability of students to self-regulate. Our district has supported some initiatives related to mindfulness in helping students to better regulate their emotions, kinesthetic learning, and different things that just help them in a physical space or a physical presence get regulated to a place where they are better prepared academically and therefore able to learn more effectively.
And we have now also on the call Ken Byrne, who is the support program coordinator. Ken, what do you hope this program brings to your students?
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on. One of the big things, obviously the COVID-19 pandemic, but there's a lot of other stressors in students' lives. It's a stressful time. And one thing that really helps students is having a positive relationship with a trusted staff member, teacher. And with Class Catalyst, it helps pave that way. We know teachers have only so much time in the classroom to build those relationships, but they could embed Class Catalyst. It's a daily online check-in where students can log in on their devices and indicate how they're feeling that day. Energy level, mood, different other components, and that goes directly to the teacher. So it helps the teacher free up some time, but it also provides them with a lot of data that, will give them some insight as to what the students might need help with. So really initiative just to help the students as much as we can, to give them some immediate intervention, depending on how they respond on that survey or on the check-in. If they're feeling down or they're feeling angry about something, they could send a note to the teacher, be like, hey, I'm upset that maybe their pet passed away or they got yelled at in the morning because they spilled something in the kitchen. But it'll give them a quick intervention to help them regulate and be ready to learn. And that's the whole goal, is to help students be ready to learn, because they won't be able to do that if they're not regulated.
And what type of tools are these teachers being equipped with to know how to respond if they do get one of those surveys that's filled out or one of those check-ins and a student says they're not doing well? What is the training like for the teachers to know how to respond?
Yeah, absolutely. So they'll get a note from the student based on how they check in, but it will also send a note to a social worker. So if it's something that a teacher can handle in the classroom and it only takes a little bit of time, they could address that right then and there. If it's a larger issue that a student's having a challenge with, we could have that social worker come to the classroom and kind of do a warm handoff and provide that support to that student in a private way where they don't have to talk in front of the class or anything like that.
And what has the reception been like? This question is for either of you, but what has the reception been like among parents and families?
I've gotten really good feedback from, like you said, the parents and families, students and teachers alike, where if something's happening at, outside of the school, maybe a conflict between friends, I know this has been helpful with teachers being informed about these conflicts before they develop into other things, but also that it is providing the students with tools that they could use, not just in the classroom, but at home. If they become frustrated, again, they could go back to what they've learned with Class Catalyst here and like, oh, well, maybe I'm going to take a few minutes and draw, or I'm going to focus on my breathing or do something else that helps with regulation. So the hope is that it carries over beyond the classroom into the homes and to their daily lives.
And walk us through, I know this won't be implemented overnight. What grades will be using this and when will it be fully rolled out?
Mm-hmm. Right now, we use this at all of our elementary schools in the district. So generally grades 3 through 5, that's what we're really focusing on right now. And last year was our first full year of implementation. So now that we have that under our belt, people are more familiar with the program. Students will have remembered it from last year. So we're looking at a another solid year of implementation, but obviously we want to increase the number of check-ins and things like that. So just keep moving forward with what we've been doing.
Absolutely. And Dr. Schilling, is there anything else that you want to add, perhaps what you've seen from students and how this is helping them?
Just that our district has always really emphasized a whole child education. And we like to have a lot of diverse student activities, things for kids to be involved in. Academic growth obviously is incredibly important. But as we move towards a program of MTSS, which is a multi-tiered system of supports, we're really looking at integrating that behavioral and social and emotional side into our student development. As part of that strategic plan that I mentioned, we had adopted a portrait of a graduate, and developing students as a whole child is a big part of that. So kudos to Mr. Byrne, to Class Catalyst for this partnership, for the ability to do that, and to give our teachers tools that they can use to collect data, to monitor, to progress monitor, help kids move towards this type of growth in addition to the classic academic growth we've always emphasized.
Well, thank you both so much for joining us here on Chicago Live to talk all about this program. And one last question, have you heard from other school districts who have heard about your implementation and have asked how they can bring it to their own districts?
So I'm actually really glad you asked that question, Casey, because we just hosted a professional development with the South Cook Intermediate Service Center. That is our regional office of education, and the district had obtained a $15,000 grant thanks to the work of Mr. Byrne and Dr. Garrett Podgorski, who is the director of programs there. And that was actually something that was available to the entire region. So as this kind of takes off, we hope to see it in more schools because that's only going to do more and more good for kids.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We are going to take a quick break, and we will be right back in just a couple of minutes. Stay with us.
to learn more.
Welcome back to Chicago Live. Coming up in our next segment, we will be introducing you to 2nd Ward Alderman Brian Hopkins, who will be joining us to talk a little bit about the Cortlandt Street Bridge. This bridge has been under construction now for quite some time, and it's going to be several more years until it is ready. There is some drone footage right now of that bridge. It is located between Lincoln Park and Bucktown, and there are a lot of folks folks who are frustrated at the news that this bridge will now be shut down for quite a little bit more time. So stay with us here on Chicago Live. We will leave you with this drone video of that bridge. You can see a cyclist there going across the bridge, but as you can tell, there are no vehicles that have been crossing over. And this is something that folks will have to get used to here, because we will talk about the new project that will be underway when we come back. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. And when we get back, we will have Alderman Hopkins joining us here on set. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Thank you for sticking with us here on this Monday afternoon. As we promised, we now have 2nd Ward Alderman Brian Hopkins joining us here in studio to talk a little bit about what's just been revealed about the Cortlandt Street Bridge. Hi, Alderman Hopkins. Thank you so much for being with us.
Hi, Casey. Good to be here.
Thank you so much. So tell us a little bit about what has just been revealed when it comes to this bridge. It's been shut down for quite a long time, and now it's going to be, what, a couple more years?
At least. We don't even have a date for beginning the major construction work, let alone a completion date. It's totally up in the air, indeterminate. And at this point, the bridge has been closed almost a year. Next month, it'll be 1 year since the bridge was closed to all vehicle traffic. And we're no closer to actually doing the work or even having a scope of work than we were a year ago. So all the inconvenience that has been caused to the immediate area of the north side was for nothing. You know, we're exactly at the point where we were when we shut down this bridge to begin with. And by the way, when we closed the bridge last year at this time, we also had the Ohio-Ontario feeder ramp was closed, the Kinsey Bridge was closed for construction, Lake Street was closed. These are all further south, but nevertheless, it takes away options for getting across the Chicago River. So we closed it at a time when traffic was already backed up due to other bridges being out of service, and it turns out we didn't need to do that.
And what is the infrastructure like on this bridge? It's over a century old, is that correct? And
yes.
There is, what now needs to be done to get it back open to cars?
We don't know. They're in the process of evaluating its condition. They're claiming that's the reason for the lengthy delay, is that there's certain areas of the bridge that are difficult to access. You have people on scaffolding and lifts using cameras and fiber optics and things like that to evaluate the condition of the bridge. That I accept. I'm sure it's a difficult job, but the fact that here we are a year later and we still haven't completed that work is really unacceptable. So we don't know how much work will eventually need to be done. We do know the bridge wasn't in imminent danger of collapse. Yes, it's old, and yes, it needs a major renovation to be performed, but there was no danger to the motoring public. It easily could have stayed open for the past year while we planned accordingly.
And to give viewers a kind of an idea of where this is if they're not familiar, but it is in between Lincoln Park and Bucktown, Cortlandt Street and the river. Walk us through what you've heard from constituents. Are they frustrated?
They're frustrated. This issue has generated more angry emails and phone calls to my office than maybe any other issue since I've been alderman, and justifiably so. The level of inconvenience that this resulted in is far beyond any typical construction-related delay. We all just endured the Kennedy project. You know, we know what that was like. We know what it's like to be stuck in traffic, and we know what it's like to have detours after detours after detours. This goes beyond that. And the thing that I think really bothered people was the lack of communication, the fact that it happened so suddenly, and it happened at a time, as I said, there were other bridge closures and there were other utility projects happening in the area immediately around this bridge. So as a motorist, you have nowhere to go. Even the detours that would normally be available to you, they were also closed or under construction. So it just was obvious to people that there was a complete lack of planning, and they just closed the bridge almost on a whim.
And no word yet on when this potential project is going to kick off?
No, but it's at least 3 years before the Cortlandt Bridge is reopened to traffic, possibly longer. Again, we don't even have the scope of work yet, so we don't know how long the work is going to take because we don't know what the work is going to do. And in the meantime, this is 18,000 cars a day that used to use the Cortlandt Bridge. Those 18,000 cars a day, we can assume, are still driving. They didn't decide to stay home or quit their jobs or stop taking their kids to school. So those 18,000 cars are on Fullerton, they're on North, they're on Division, which now is also going to be under construction next year. And there's going to be an overlap between the time that the Division bridges are being worked on and the Cortlandt Bridge is still closed. That's going to be even worse than it currently is.
And we saw in that video that we showed, there was a cyclist who managed to get across the bridge. Is it technically open to pedestrian traffic, or was that maybe just something that that cyclist managed to sneak by?
No, it's open to pedestrians and bikes and will be for the foreseeable future. Again, there's no imminent danger of collapse. The bridge is structurally sound, if not somewhat deteriorated. You know, you can see the girders are rusty. It needs to be renovated. No one's disputing that. It's the manner in which this project has been planned or not planned, actually. That's the real cause for concern. But in the meantime, cyclists and pedestrians are still able to use it.
And you mentioned some of the other bridges that have been under construction. Are you concerned at the timing that a lot of these bridges were originally built at the same time, and now we're kind of seeing that if one goes out, another one is soon to come? And do you worry about the timing of this?
Sure. You know, bridges never stop being maintained. Work on bridges is always ongoing. You know, you see the results. A few years back, we had an interstate bridge in Minneapolis collapse, and people actually died as a result of that. We learned our lesson from that. Bridges are inspected regularly, and work is done on an ongoing basis. But every once in a while, you know, once a generation, a bridge actually does need to be completely rebuilt. And we just happen to have some pretty bad timing where a number of our bridges are hitting that point. But again, that's not an excuse to not plan for it, and that doesn't absolve the Department of Transportation from trying to do a better job of coming up with congestion mitigation plans that can be in place on the day you close the bridge. You announce it months in advance, and you have those detours ready. You put a construction moratorium on those detours so they're available to handle the increased volume of traffic. We did none of that on the Cortlandt closure, and now we're, again, faced with the Division Street project that's going to be taking place at this time next year.
All right, Alderman Hopkins, thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything else that you want viewers to know, or your constituents?
Yeah, I did pass an ordinance a few months ago to mandate a hearing before the city council anytime a bridge closure is planned. So hopefully that will shed some light on this and prevent this type of lack of planning from happening again. So we'll see what happens when we have our hearing for the Division Street closure. I'm sure there'll be some pointed questions, and hopefully we'll get some answers.
And what does the support look like for that? Do you have backing from others in the city council?
Yes, I do. In fact, I'm not the only alderman on the north side that's affected by this. This bridge is on the border between my ward and Alderman Wagaspack's, but all of the surrounding north side wards have been impacted by this. The traffic has just been a domino effect, and it's really fanned out. Basically, the entire north side is experiencing gridlock, especially during the rush hour periods. So we have a lot of angry voters to deal with, and the aldermen have been hearing from them.
And I bet. And quick note to viewers, when does that Division Street closure take effect?
It should take effect next spring, probably around March or April.
All right, Alderman Hopkins, thank you so much. Anything else that you want to share with our viewers?
Thanks, Casey. I appreciate the opportunity to explain some of what's happening here.
All right, we appreciate you too. Thank you so much for joining. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We are going to take a quick break, and we will be right back with much more. Thanks for being here. Thank you for sticking here on Chicago Live. The time is now just about 2:42, and we want to recap what we just spoke about with 2nd Ward Alderman Brian Hopkins. We'll call up that video again of the Cortlandt Street Bridge. Here's a look at it. This is located between Lincoln Park and Bucktown. It's Cortlandt Street and the river. And essentially what Alderman Hopkins was in studio to share is that this bridge was shut down about a year ago. However, he says it wasn't made clear what work was needed on the bridge and how long that would take, only just to find out by the Department of Transportation that this bridge project is actually going to take an additional 3 or so years. He says it hasn't yet been outlined what exactly needs to be done to make repairs on the bridge. He said there was no imminent threat, though, to motorists. And that is why he said he and a lot of constituents in his ward are frustrated that the bridge was shut down, even though there was no direct threat to motorists, and it wasn't particularly made clear what needed to be done and for how long it would take. As you can see, a cyclist passing by there. It is open to pedestrians and cyclists, but it is shut down to motorists. And Alderman Hopkins was pointing out that this is just one of several bridges in the city that is currently shut down and being worked on. And again, this could take several more years before this is done. They're expecting at least about 3 years. Here's some drone footage you're looking at of that bridge right now. Again, located between Lincoln Park and Bucktown. And residents in the area will have to get used to this staying closed to cars for at least, as he mentioned, 3 more years. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We have a few more guests that will be joining us on our show before we turn things over to the news at 4 and then 5 o'clock. We are going to take one quick break, but I'll leave you with this shot of the Bean here. Gorgeous day out right now. And JD will be coming in soon to talk more about the weather and what's in store for the rest of the week. This off of a really gorgeous weekend, finally, but a reminder that there are still so many people in the dark in Northwest Indiana tomorrow, marking 2 weeks since the storms swept through the area. Indiana Governor Braun, calling out NIPSCO as to why they haven't been able to get the power back on. NIPSCO saying they have called in contractors and are working as hard as they can to get the lights back on. We'll talk more about that when we come back. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. Welcome back to Chicago Live. About 30 minutes ago, we had one of the co-hosts of our true crime podcast on the show to talk about the anniversary of the disappearance of Tammy Zwicky. Yesterday marked 34 years since her disappearance. We now have joining us Acting Lieutenant Ryan Caney from the Illinois State Police, who is here to talk a little bit more about this important case. Hi, Lieutenant. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, good afternoon.
So walk us through the latest in this case. There is a person of interest that Illinois State Police has circled in on, but this woman has since passed away. What are you asking right now of the public if they did know this woman who you are asking, Terry, is it Terry Belinsky?
That's correct. About 2 years ago, we were able to, through our collaboration with the FBI and the state police, continue to work and test and investigate some of the different physical pieces of evidence. We were able to discover and identify one specific DNA profile that was on the blanket that Tammy was found in. We later identified through our investigation that person came back to Terry Belinsky, who was had some ties to the Southern California area. Now, we since then talked to family members, former spouses, her children, and she really seemed to keep her life separate. But we do know that she did like to hitchhike, she did like to travel around the country. And so what we're asking for the public's help here is try to identify those missing pieces. We know at some point Terry was in our crime scene and left her DNA, but we simply don't know how that connects to our case with Tammy. And so perhaps we might have, people are creatures of habit. They may have stopped at some point and, like to get lunch somewhere. Maybe she maintains some friends outside of family. So we're simply asking for the public's help. Did you know Terry Belinsky? Clearly, this is 30 years ago, so it's a difficult task. But here at the State Police, we're not giving up. We're continuing to pursue whatever lead we can and try to connect these missing pieces.
And how many tips have you received over the last 34 years? And also, I'm curious, are any of the original investigators who worked the case all that time ago in 1992, are they still with ISP?
No, people have kind of moved on. I know the original investigator with ISP since passed away a couple of years ago, and unfortunately, I never got the chance to talk with him about the case. But what we do know, again, is we're just kind of continuing to focus all our investigative efforts and doing whatever we can to bring justice for Tammy. Tammy is very relatable, just like so many other families right now are sending their daughters off to school, getting ready to face their senior year. And again, this is something that's near and dear to my heart and also everybody else here at State Police.
We know that there are over 200 pieces of evidence tied to this case. Walk me through, in a case like this, a cold case, when do you as investigators go back and look at that evidence with a fresh set of eyes?
That's an ongoing, pretty much weekly. Every day we're working with our team members, again, both FBI, ISP, and collaborating. And again, there is a lot of evidence here, right? There are a lot of different things that potentially could be missed. So that's why we continually have eyes on it. We're not giving up. We're continually, technology is rapidly improving in this area again. And so something that might not be possible today could be possible in a few months, another year from now. So that's one of the biggest challenges that we do face, is just staying on our game and continuing to do whatever we can.
And you mentioned some DNA evidence. What did that DNA evidence show? And was Terry Belinsky's DNA on that blanket that was found wrapped around Tammy's body?
Correct. That her DNA was on that blanket. Not going to go into all of our details, but we do believe at some point that she had some type of interaction with the person that we believe may have committed this crime. And again, we simply don't know at this point, how that connects to one another. Again, it's a giant jigsaw puzzle. We know Terry is part of it. We know, Tammy and that specifics around, when her body was left back in 1992 in Missouri, almost 500 miles from our crime scene. Again, it's one giant big puzzle, and we're doing whatever we can to try and fill in those pieces.
And what is your message for the public if they hear either that this case is back in the media or they hear that name, Terry Belinsky? What do you ask of them?
We're simply asking them to come forward. If you think you see something, say something. It's something that might be inconsequential when you put those together with other pieces of the puzzle. that might help fill in the picture for us. Again, Teresa was estranged from her family. We don't know where she was specifically in those early 90s. Perhaps somebody listening here knows somebody or could share Tammy's story. Keep Tammy Zawicki's story alive, and that way that continues to move on and be shared. And then again, who knows what that might, what person might realize and listen to that, and then be able to then connect and provide one piece of the puzzle for us that we can continue to fill things in.
How important is it in a case like this to constantly look at it from different angles, hoping that perhaps an investigator with a fresh set of eyes sees something or notices something that perhaps was missed before?
Again, we're a part of a bigger team, right? There's lots of people who never get their name mentioned, but they know who they are, and we appreciate their collaboration. And again, this is bigger than just one person. This is bigger than just one agency here, than the state police or the FBI. We're here ultimately to serve the public. We're here to just preserve Tammy's memory, and we're here to seek justice for her.
And we know that there were some items of Tammy's that went missing after her death. What significance do those items have to this investigation? Have any of them been recovered?
Not so far to this date. We do believe that there were a couple of things that were taken, perhaps as mementos, something that whoever did commit this heinous crime, that they would potentially be able to relive that memory. So there's a patch that was cut off of her shorts. We have photos of that on our webpage, but it was just a soccer patch that meant something to Tammy, that we believe was pretty crudely cut off of her shorts at that time. She was missing a watch that was, I believe it was a Loris wristwatch that played the musical song, Raindrops Keep Falling in My Head. We have photos of that as well that we've released. And so, again, those are mementos that don't have any value. It's not for robbery. It's simply meant to just be an emotional connection for whoever did commit this crime.
It's really so disturbing to think of that. Tell us a little bit more about this reward, the FBI offering up to $50,000 for information leading to the identification of the individual responsible for the crime. Were you able to, or were any other crews able to interview this woman, Teresa, before her death back in 2014?
No, unfortunately, we never knew that she was a part of this prior to her death. So we've interviewed her family, friends that we're aware of. They've all been fully cooperative. We've cleared them from any part of this investigation. Teresa pretty much had moved on in her relationships and didn't really associate with them anymore, unfortunately. So we've done that. Also, I would say that there is a $50,000 reward that's put up by the FBI. They have their details for that specifically for that on their website. But yes, if you do provide information, there potentially could be a reward for you.
And talk about generally, in any case, why it's so important that the public does speak up if they know something about a crime, or perhaps they heard something, maybe they don't know that it is specifically tied to that given case, but just if they hear anything, why it's important to come forward.
For sure. Well, DNA and physical evidence will only get you so far, right? We might be able to connect parts of the puzzle, but what really happens is when we get involvement from the community, we get that buy-in that allows us to fully connect the picture, especially on a case that's 34 years old like this. We can't go back and dig up more evidence from that case. We pretty much have what we have at this point. And so whatever we can to do, it seems like when, I listen to true crime podcasts, I work in the field, and yet even every month or so you hear about some cold case that is being solved. And a lot of times that is through DNA, but it's also through people coming forward and submitting tips. And so again, we'd like to consider that as the police here, we are part of the community. We are a part of the team here, and we need your help. And this is some way that if you think about it, share her story And, perhaps you might not know specifically anything, details that might help us, but you sharing this story might allow somebody else who does have one of those details to then allow us to hear and come forward and to seek justice for Tammy.
And before we let you go, Lieutenant Caney, tell us a little bit about, generally speaking, the Illinois State Police Crime Lab and just how DNA evidence technology has improved greatly in the last decade, 2 decades.
Yeah, even when I started on this case 10 years ago, what was even talked about then is now physically possible. We kind of have to weigh, whether we need to test evidence now or if we can hold out and maybe save some of that evidence and use it a couple years down the road. But, excuse me. But what we want to do is focus on seeking justice for Tammy and doing whatever we can to basically fill in the puzzle and to help this family out.
Thank you so much. We so appreciate your time. Is there anything else that you want viewers to know about this case?
Absolutely. Thank you for your time. If you do want to learn more about the case, clearly there's only so much that we can tell through these interviews or podcasts, but there is a Facebook group following out there, Who Killed Tammy Zwicky. If people are interested, they can follow along there and certainly keep apprised of the case.
All right. Thank you so much, Lieutenant. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks. You as well. All right, stay with us here on Chicago Live. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, JD will have the latest on your forecast. Stay with us. Welcome back to Chicago Live. The time is now 3:01 on this Monday afternoon. Joining us now is my colleague JD Rudd to talk all things weather. Hey JD, how's it going?
Hey Casey, it's great. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us here. You two are getting used to our new set here.
Indeed.
Yeah, we're playing around with some things. First full day that we are in this studio on digital and on linear.
This is amazing. This is good stuff. It's a work in progress in some regards. We're gonna hit a few speed bumps, but we're gonna be fine. We're gonna get things all figured out and be a-okay.
Absolutely. So we have been showing folks these gorgeous weather shots today. I'll bring one up right now. Just look at the bean. I mean, it is such a gorgeous day out there today. And JD, we had such a good weekend.
I was just gonna say the weekend was phenomenal compared to what I had the weekend before. This was about as good as you you can get them with the lower humidity. We had a couple of rain showers dancing in some areas on Saturday, but Sunday was just a stellar knockout for us.
It was. We finally had, as we talked about in the last couple of weeks, but low humidity, really no humidity. I mean, that breeze felt so good over the weekend.
Oh, it was great.
And you know, it's a break people needed, especially those dealing with the aftermath still of those storms.
Yeah, to say the least. I mean, there are still many things to get done from those storms, still many things that have to be cleaned up, fixed up, the whole 9 yards. But to have a weekend where you don't have to keep an eye to the sky, to have a weekend where it's not super hot, not super humid or anything else like that, it's needed, to say the least. And hopefully, I mean, that's just for Joe and Bill and Betty Lunchbox. For those who are actually doing the work still, like those line crews trying to get power restored still in some places, that too is nice, just to have a break from all the obscene weather that we've had this year.
Absolutely. What is in store for today? It looks gorgeous out right now, but is that what we can expect into this Monday evening?
This is one of those what you see is what you get kind of a thing. So we've got a few clouds out there. That's really no big issue for us at all. No storm systems coming our way, anything else like that. The dew points are manageable. The temperatures are decent. It might be a little bit warmer and maybe a skosh more sticky than what it was yesterday, but it's not bad. Here's the satellite and radar picture. There was a little storm complex there off to our west that was cruising through portions of Iowa and Missouri. That's going to stay out there. It's no issue for us at all. No storm systems coming our way whatsoever. Even though this is a quiet Monday, it's been a quiet couple of days, there are still power outages out there. Our weather system is showing at least 8,500 in Lake County, Indiana. Still some reports most likely along the state line there in Cook County, east, southeast of Chicago, about 200 folks, and the same thing there east of Maryville. You got about 900 folks in northwest Indiana, but the big focus has been Lake County, Indiana. And put that in perspective, for percentage-wise, it's about 4%, which, again, those 8,000 plus folks still need and want their power, but it's down from the 20-some thousand, 30-some thousand, and at times six-figure number that we were seeing so often last week.
And at a certain point, 50% of Lake County was in the dark.
Yes, which is terrible to say the least. So it's great to see those numbers improving. I hope that they continue to improve, especially in the short term. Let's get this stuff fixed up and done around in the next day or two, if possible. I do want to take a second to touch on a few stats that I have found, because since we've had this quiet stretch of weather, some new numbers have come in from the National Weather Service. This is no shocker here where we stand for tornadoes in the state. We are now up to 210 confirmed tornadoes. That breaks by far the previous record set in 2024. I did some more digging, though. We are now starting to close in on an all-time record for anywhere in the country.
Unreal.
The current standing record is 245 confirmed twisters set in 2015 in the state of Texas. Now, I'm not wishing for this. I'm not hoping for this. But we are 35 twisters shy of tying that.
Wow.
And this is Illinois. We cover a large amount of real estate in the country. It is also only the end of August.
Yeah.
We have September. We have October, but maybe you're thinking, well, how common is a tornado in September or October? Well, I have those numbers for you.
I was going to ask, so I'm so glad you came in here with your trusty graphics because, yeah, I mean, how common is it to see tornadoes as we head into fall?
So let's set the table like this. A couple different things to keep in mind when you see this. This is the average number of tornadoes per month in the state. And at first glance, you go, whew, September only averages 1, October only averages 2. Great. Let me remind you that May averages 14, April and June average 11. Do the quick fuzzy math on that. That's about 36 twisters in those 3 months. We've already seen 210 confirmed tornadoes in our state. So even though the averages are lower, I do find it interesting that you see the averages tick up just a number, October, November, December, but you look at that from a numbers geek's point of view, and this just tells you that any time of the year we can see them in our state. Now, when you get later into the year, it's usually more in southern Illinois, but geography doesn't really matter when we're talking about a state record. So even if we do get severe weather and it's not in the Chicagoland area, even if it's south of Springfield, if we still get something at the end of the year in the southern part of the state, it adds to our tally.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you go from the direction of Illinois to how about Indiana? I don't want to leave Indiana out at all. Average number of twisters in Indiana is a little bit of a different story. The numbers aren't quite as high. They do kind of peak around the same time frame, April, May, June, and then we usually get down to about 1, 2, or 0 in the back half of the year. Now, even there, November stands out. You get more in November than you do September, October, December. This, again, getting way too geeky into the weeds for a second. We have what us weather geeks call second season. That's like the second severe weather season as the upper level jet stream and some other dynamics in the atmosphere start to meander back down a different direction. So you think about it in the springtime as the jet stream's rising northward, that's typically when we get our severe weather season. And then the jet stream normally stalls to our north. That gives us those hot, humid days here. And then in the late fall, as we get ready to go from fall to winter, things start going the other direction, and that opens up those dynamics for us to get that second season of severe weather. It's not normally as robust as the springtime, but it still happens, and it can still be problematic for us. So to kind of put a little bow on all this for you here, here's where things stand. Both Illinois and Indiana, record-setting years for confirmed tornadoes as of today. 210 in Illinois, 87 in Indiana, both of those breaking old records. 75 confirmed twisters in the Chicago National Weather Service coverage area. That is a record for them as well. So this has been just a historic, unprecedented season for twisters. This is just tornadoes, Casey. Just tornadoes. I don't immediately have the stats.
It's going to go down in the history books, JD.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is something they're going to talk about for years and years to come, to look back on the year 2026. But I don't have the stat in front of me right now. This has also been the leading year for severe thunderstorm warnings issued in our area and the lead year for flood warnings issued in our area. So this has been, to surmise, a season where severe weather has topped all the headlines, and it's happened right here, Illinois and Indiana.
And you know, JD, it does make you wonder, what will this winter look like? I know we don't want to think that far, but you know, you think back to the last few winters where we've seen really frigid temperatures and then milder winters. Any predictions?
So there's a couple of schools of thought with this, and you could argue, some folks will say, oh, well, what happened in the spring and the summer usually carries over to the fall and the winter, so my gosh, it was so active. Surely it's going to be that way as we get to the fall and winter. There are some others out there, keeping in mind that our historical record data is relatively small in the grand scheme of things. So there's some other schools of thought out there that say, you know, late in the summer to the fall, a new pattern sets up in the atmosphere. And it's that pattern that repeats for about the next 9 to 10 months. So that said differently, what we've seen over the past 4, 5, 6 months, the pattern could completely change by this fall and winter. So we've been on this little rampage of nasty, destructive storms, copious amounts of rain, et cetera, et cetera. That may all stop as we head into the winter. There's also the super El Nino for us to consider, and that too could change things around for us. So it's hard to sit here today and go, well, here's what's going to happen this winter. And it sounds like a cop-out, but it's the truth. It could go either way.
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
could be one of those winters where we're going, oh my gosh, this is almost as bad as the summer and springtime where we've got buku snow. It's super cold. This has just been a pathetic year. It could also take a turn where we go, wow, this hasn't been that bad. Hasn't gotten that cold. Haven't had a lot of snow. This is nice compared to what happened over the spring and the summer months.
And I want to talk a little bit, too, about the rainfall and the flood zones and just what we've seen on that front. Just north of Indianapolis, they are really going through it. Those images that we've seen in people's homes, their basements, their first floors even, just totally flooded. But our viewers, some folks in our viewing area have not been excluded from that.
No, there have been some. You go along and south of I-80. They've been hit pretty hard. But yeah, it's been just south of I-80, especially in the past 2-3 weeks, that have just been inundated over and over with these pockets of rain that not only are producing heavy rain, but you get these situations, they go over the same spot time and time again. And I think it was last week, 1 or 2 different days, there were some storms that within a couple of hours had already dropped 5 or 6 inches of rain. You do that 1, 2, 3 times in a week, that is a problem a big-time problem. So there are some areas that have seen, and again, somewhere in the system, I know we've got the stats, they've seen 300 and some odd percent of normal. What does that mean? 3 times the amount of moisture they're supposed to have by this far into the year. So if you're supposed to have 20 inches of rain by now and you've seen 300%, you're looking at about 60 inches of rainfall, which is astounding and incredible. And unfortunately, it's been a situation where it's the same towns that have been getting hit over and over. There are some cases you drive 30 miles this way, 30 miles that way, hasn't been that bad.
Right.
There are still some portions of northern Illinois that are considered abnormally dry. That's borderline drought. These are areas that haven't gotten much rain at all. They're going, oh, you guys are talking about this flooding and all this high water. What flooding?
Right.
What high water? So it is all about location, and unfortunately, we've had some areas in both Illinois, Indiana getting hit hard, but really Indiana has taken the brunt in the past 2 to 3 weeks.
They really have. And we are thinking of all of those people who are dealing with cleaning up after flooding. They are still dealing with no power. And NIPSCO, they say their contractors are out on the ground. As we know now, Indiana Governor Mike Braun is calling for an investigation into NIPSCO. So this is something that we will see unfolding over the coming months and years. As we know now, also there is a class action lawsuit that was just filed on Friday.
We are not done with this weather story. Even though the weather systems will move out of here and things will settle, we're going to be talking a lot about the storms of 2026 for some time to come, I believe and feel.
All right, JD, thank you so much for popping in here, and we look forward to doing this more.
Yes.
And I am glad to hear, though, that today's weather looks like it will hold where it is. All right, JD, thank you so much. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We're going to take a quick 2-minute break, and we will be right back. Here's another shot of the Bean. Beautiful day out. Not too many people out there right now. It is Monday. People are back at work, but for those who are out there enjoying it, they have a good day for it. Stay right here. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Thank you for staying with us here on this Monday afternoon. As we mentioned, we are in a new set here on Chicago Live, so we are still getting the hang of all of the gizmos and gadgets here, so thank you for bearing with us. We do want to introduce our next guest, which is our very own Brett Bagansky, who is joining us on his story this afternoon. Hey, Brett, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure can.
Hey, great to see you. I hope you had a good weekend. Tell us a little bit, Brett, what are you working on for this afternoon?
So we're in Gary, Indiana right now. This is day 13 for some people in Northwest Indiana where they have not had power. This is from the severe weather that we had nearly 2 weeks ago. That was back on Tuesday, August 11, where you still have thousands of people in Gary, Indiana who still don't have power. And I checked the latest NIPSCO outage map. There's nearly 10,000 people. It's about 9,600 and change. About 2/3 of those NIPSCO customers who still don't have power as we speak live in Gary, Indiana. And so there's a lot of people still around this area where they are living kind of a temporary life right now. They're in a temporary holding pattern because they have no power, which means they can only have so much food in a certain time. Some of them don't have the money to have a power generator, whether it be the longer term one or the one that you would have to fill up constantly with gas. And it has become an issue where Governor Mike Braun this morning called for state regulators to launch an investigation into NIPSCO's practices and how they handled and how they responded to the severe weather events here. And there was two big concerns here. Did NIPSCO adequately clear the trees and vegetation around the power infrastructure? And number two, did NIPSCO end up spending the money as promised for infrastructure and reliability improvements, which state regulators had to approve through the IURC? And these are big questions here because this is millions, if not billions of dollars we're talking about here. And we're going on almost 2 weeks now. You still have thousands of people in Gary, Indiana that still do not have power.
And Brett, it is just devastating to think about being in their shoes with no lights on. They have lost the food in their fridge, and that was 2 weeks ago now. What has NIPSCO's response been after Governor Mike Braun called out the utility company for not working fast enough to get the lights back on?
It seems like the same response has been, we're doing everything we can. We're working around the clock. We have crews out here. We've got independent contractors. We've had ComEd crews come to Northwest Indiana. You even had Mike Braun have state agencies help NIPSCO respond to this. And then it was over the weekend that Governor Braun said, look, NIPSCO has all the resources it can to get this back up and running, and he said it's not good enough. So it's been one response saying, well, this is something that we haven't had to deal with. This is a derecho. This is 100-mile-per-hour winds. It was almost like being in a hurricane for a lot of people. And people I've spoken to over the past 2 weeks have said, I know what it feels like to be in a hurricane, even though they hadn't lived in, the Carolinas or the state of Florida or even around the Gulf Coast states here. But it has become this thing. In fact, one guy interviewed today said, this feels like I'm living in a third world country right now, but I'm living in Gary, Indiana. It's been unacceptable for so many people, and they are very aware now that Governor Mike Braun has called for an investigation into NIPSCO's practices, and this is coming on top of months of the stories that we've done right here on Fox Chicago, where people are paying hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for their utility bills, where they've had to choose between paying the rent, paying their mortgage, paying their car bills, skipping a payment, and choosing to not eat because they can't afford the stuff. And it's been one of those situations where people have some serious questions, and there's questions about accountability and who is going to hold them accountable. And with this state investigation unfolding, I was able to speak to Gary Mayor Eddie Melton just a few hours ago. He's also wondering what the state investigation is what's going to happen here. But he did say one thing. He is advocating that for the next 60 to 90 days that NIPSCO not disconnect anybody's power because of this, and number two, to waive all kinds of late fees here. And he wasn't just talking about Gary, Indiana. He was talking about everyone in Northwest Indiana who has been impacted by these storms.
And we do know also, Brett, that a class action lawsuit was filed just on Friday.
And that's what's very interesting, is that one of the questions that they had was, did NIPSCO adequately clear the trees and vegetation around power infrastructure? That is the crux argument of that class action lawsuit, where we understand that more people are joining, saying this could have been avoided. There was a man who had to have emergency dental surgery, and he was in the middle of it. The power went out, and he had to go home with no teeth in his mouth, and it was very, very painful for him. Fortunately, he got the surgery at a later date, but these were real life impacts for people where it's affecting their health, and it's become a safety issue for some people. Another man I spoke to today said, I stay up late at night just guarding my property, make sure that nothing happens to my kids. He said, because you don't know what's going to happen around this time. It has become a moment of survival for so many people in Gary, Indiana, and they feel they've been abandoned and that their agencies that they have to rely on, they have to depend on. NIPSCO is a monopoly. It's not like anybody gets a choice of what kind of utility company they get to choose here in Northwest Indiana. They're a monopoly, and they feel like they've been abandoned.
Absolutely. And I'm sure this has been so difficult for all of them. And it's really just so devastating what they've had to endure and the position that they've been put in. I'm sure, too, this has impacted, we know at the time it did, school opening back up for the new academic year. I'm sure this has really impacted a lot of parents who maybe aren't ready to send their kids back to school because they don't have power in their own home.
Absolutely. And you have the situation where if you don't have a regular pattern, if your schedule is interrupted, especially you don't know where your next meal is coming from. In fact, I was speaking with the superintendent of Gary Public Schools a few days ago, saying that there were already families really depending on other agencies to find out where their next meal is coming from. And then you cut the power. And anytime you have someone who is hungry, their head's not going to be in the right place. They're not going to want to go to school. They're going to be thinking about something else. They're going to be thinking about their family and their livelihood and whether they have a safe place to go home to. And then you have this, and they don't know when their power is going to be restored, and then you're going to have them go back to school. It just seems as if so many people have so many questions and they don't know who's going to help them out. And that's why they are just really just pleading for someone to go and go to bat for them. And we try to, we ask the questions and to try to hold the right people accountable. But, someone like Vince Parisi, who is the head of the company, we've asked for on-camera interviews with him in the past. It's gone unresponded. And I know he's done some interviews with some other outlets here, but, we've been doing some investigation into NIPSCO, and it just seems like there's a lot of serious questions that they have to answer for a lot of people, because people here, especially in Gary, Indiana, it's not just here. We've been to Portage, we've been to Lake Station, we've been to Cherville, Hammond. It's a very common theme. People are not happy, and they feel like they're paying a lot of money for utility services, and they feel like NIPSCO is not holding up their end of the bargain.
It really is a dire situation, Brett, and you have, as you mentioned it, but you have been in front of this since the beginning, even before these recent storms that have swept through the area, but investigating and looking into how much people are paying that utility company. Let me ask you this. Has NIPSCO come out and held any other press conferences in recent days?
The last one was the one in the city of Gary, which didn't seem like it answered a lot of questions. And at that time, there were a lot more people who didn't have their power. It was close to 100,000 people across Northwest Indiana, and a good bulk of them were here in Gary. But it looks like some of the people who live in Portage and Hobart, who also were in the same boat as Gary, many of them have had their power restored, but now it's kind of, the damage is done. And now they still have to, they've lost so much money in fuel costs and food. I mean, think about groceries are expensive. Inflation has not gone down. People are spending more money for things than they ever had before. And then you have this emergency, and they're filling up power generators. That takes fuel. Fuel prices are at an all-time high. This is costing families so much money. There are a lot of unintended consequences. And in fact, when we spoke to a reverend last week, his power was out. He was saying, because my power's out, I also have no cell service. So communication's down. So it's not only just about power being down, lines of communication are down. And when you have lines of communication down and you have people relying on cell service, that becomes a huge problem.
Absolutely, and not to mention, where can people even charge their phones? Before I let you go, I know you've got to get ready for the 4 and the 5, but let's just touch on very quickly the helpers, because there have been so many agencies and groups, including the Red Cross and the Salvation Army, are residents feeling supported by those groups?
They sure do. And in fact, we were at this event earlier today from the Keith Lee Salvation Army putting on this huge event. And we've covered quite a few of these events for the last couple of weeks. And this was so well attended. You had people parking in the nearby fields. You had Gary police officers directing traffic. And those events have become the silver lining. And those little moments of joy where people are realizing that they're not alone out there. And I think what makes it that much more impactful is that the volunteers themselves are in the same boat as they are. You know, there might be some other socioeconomic issues that are different. What they make, it might be a little different, but they're also in the dark too. But they're also saying, look, I'm in the same boat as you. We're going to get through this. We're going to get together, and we're going to utilize our resources. We're going to bring them together, and we're going to get through one of the most difficult times of their life. And I think everybody's dealt with a power outage. Nobody's dealt with a power outage of this magnitude before. And the fact that they're leaning on one another has made people just a little bit more joyful, or at least they have a sigh of relief knowing that they're not alone.
Absolutely. Brett, thank you so much for joining us. We so appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
All right. Thank you, Brett. Really appreciate that. You can see Brett's reports coming up later today at 4 and 5, actually pretty soon here, just in about a half an hour. Our 4 o'clock newscast will kick off. We're going to take a quick break here on Chicago Live. And when we come back, we have just a couple more guests joining us. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Thank you so much for sticking with us here on this Monday afternoon. The time is now 3:31. As we just heard from our very own Brett Bagansky, who is on the ground in Northwest Indiana, there are still more questions than answers today. Nearly 2 weeks after storms swept through the area and killed power for thousands of people. In Gary, there are still many residents who don't have the lights on today. And as you can imagine, this has impacted everything from where they can charge their phones to food in the fridge to getting their kids back to school. A lot of school districts in Northwest Indiana did postpone the start of school in the midst of all of this chaos that came through the area. And a lot of people are still struggling right now and don't have power in their own neighborhoods. As we wait for our next guest to join, we will do a quick recap of what we have covered so far today. Big story, and the anniversary was yesterday, but we have spoken to an Illinois State Police lieutenant and also the host of our True Crime podcast about this today, and that is the anniversary of the disappearance of Tammy Zawicki. Tammy Zawicki went missing back in 1992. She was reportedly last seen with her car on I-80 at mile marker 83 here in Illinois, that is in LaSalle County. And that happened on August 23rd of 1992, yesterday, marking the 34-year anniversary since her disappearance. Her body was later found about a week later on September 1st of 1992. But the offender, the perpetrator, has never been identified. Illinois State Police has recently identified a person of interest in this case, and that person's name is Teresa or Terry Belinsky. Now, Terry is not believed to have committed the crime, but the Illinois State Police lieutenant who we spoke with said that it is believed that she knew what happened that day that Tammy disappeared, because Belinsky's DNA was found on the blanket that Tammy was wrapped in when her body was discovered. Now, to make things a little bit more challenging for investigators, but Belinsky did pass away in 2014, and they didn't realize her connection to the case until after her death. The Illinois State Police lieutenant who we spoke with said that they have since interviewed her friends and family who have been cleared from involvement in this case. But what they are asking for now from the public is anyone who, first off, knows anything about this case to come forward, but also anyone who knew Teresa Belinsky, this person of interest. And maybe they can think back and perhaps their memory will be jogged about something she may have said to them or something that they heard her speak to someone else about. So they are asking the public to reach out to Illinois State Police for any information about this case. The FBI is offering a $50,000 reward for information leading to the identification of those responsible. All right, switching gears now, we do want to introduce Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy, who will be joining us now. Congressman Krishnamurthy, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can. Thank you so much for joining us. We so appreciate it. So walk me through this latest. We have a $1 million community project funding award to DuPage Water Commission, and this is supporting the Lake Michigan Regional Water Supply Initiative. Talk to us about what this means.
Sure. So first of all, thanks for your attention to this important infrastructure project. Essentially, 2 million people in the Northeast Illinois region rely on Lake Michigan for their water needs. And essentially, the DuPage Water Commission helps to purchase this water on their behalf. And because of growing water needs, they are directly going to build perhaps North America's largest water project and tunnel into Lake Michigan to receive water and then build a plant that would filter out microplastics, lead, PFAS, and other contaminants. And so I was able to secure on a bipartisan basis $1 million for the phase one kind of part of this project. And I'm really excited for what's to come.
And describe the scope of this project. You said that this could potentially be the largest of its kind?
Correct. It's definitely going to be one of America's biggest projects in terms of water infrastructure. It's going to be a decade-long project, but it is also going to be state-of-the-art because one of the things that we are noticing in terms of pollutants not being sufficiently screened out are PFAS and microplastics. We've talked about lead for a long time as well. And so this water infrastructure project is not only going to source water from Lake Michigan, but also make sure that it delivers clean drinking water to the, as I said, millions of people in northeastern Illinois who rely on Lake Michigan for their water needs.
And explain to our viewers at home the significance of this and why it is so important that our water supply does stay as clean as possible.
Well, remember, these contaminants could lead to all kinds of health problems. We are now starting to learn about the really harmful effects of microplastics, which are in our water. Of course, we know about lead. There is no safe level of exposure to lead in the human body, and especially for children, it could mean a lifetime of learning deficits and other problems. And of course, we also know about PFAS, in part because of our veterans' exposure to PFAS in foreign war zones, and the fact that it's present even here in the United States in our water supply. And so this is all about our health at the end of the day. I believe that water is a right. It's not just a privilege, and clean drinking water is essential if, we're going to raise healthy families.
And talk a little bit about what you know in terms of the project. You mentioned phase 1. Is it getting underway soon?
Yes. In fact, the DuPage Water Commission has already started plans with regard to, potential boring of tunnels to Lake Michigan. They are going to then work with the EPA as well as Illinois Department of Natural Resources and other agencies that have jurisdiction with regard to this issue. So I feel that they are going to be moving expeditiously on this. And as I said, I'm really pleased that we were able to secure $1 million for the preliminary studies with regard to phase 1.
And what will those studies look like? Will this be focused on Lake Michigan itself?
I think it'll be focused not only on Lake Michigan, but also the logistics of actually getting the water from Lake Michigan into the suburbs. What's really interesting, when I toured the DuPage Water Commission's facilities, I had a chance to see their pumping stations. What actually happens is, water is brought in from Lake Michigan all the way to DuPage County through a series of pumps along the way from Lake Michigan to DuPage County. And then DuPage County actually pumps out this water to about 40 to 50 towns and villages, which each in turn have their own pumping stations to distribute that water to households. So it's a huge water infrastructure project. Again, I'm excited about what's to come, especially in terms of building that kind of state-of-the-art filtration system to start to get at some of those pollutants that, current water systems are having a hard time screening out.
And remind me, you said how long could this project take from start to finish?
They're estimating 10 years.
10 years. And what else do you want viewers at home to know? This sounds like it's something that'll probably be happening behind the scenes here. We won't perhaps see the front-facing infrastructure being built right away, not overnight at least. Anything that you want viewers to know?
Well, it's going to create, I think, thousands of good-paying union jobs, which is very important. These are by some of the largest companies in the world, extremely profitable. If anything, they should be providing more power, more water, more resources, more money to the communities in which they're located if they wish to operate. Instead, it's been the opposite. And on top of all that, as I said before, it's been done in secret, the agreements, which to me is, a big no-no.
All right, Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy, thank you so much for joining us. Anything else that you want our viewers to know on this Monday afternoon?
No, I think just please pay attention to these infrastructure projects. Please support them. I think they are largely done in the Illinois region in a bipartisan fashion. And I think that the people who work on them, whether it's the skilled men and women who are actually working on them with their hands, or it's the elected officials and others who are trying to design them, or the engineers, they're doing so in a collaborative way, and that's something that we should support.
All right. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. Come back anytime.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right. Talk to you soon. Thank you so much. All right. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We will be right back after this quick break. But first, take a live look outside. It is really just a gorgeous day. And as J.D. Rudd mentioned, weather looks like it's going to hold like this for the rest of the day. So if you can, get out there and enjoy it. Stay right here, though. We do have one more guest that'll be joining us coming up after this break.
How did Fifth Third Bank get its name? Some say it surfaced over a bowl of soup.
What to call a bank that keeps your money safe and sound? Fifth Third Bank. That's it.
While the events, people, and places in this story are fictional, Fifth Third's commitment to better banking is 100% real. Real.
Welcome back to Chicago Live. Thank you so much for joining us. We do have one more guest that we'd like to introduce to you on this Monday afternoon before we turn things over to the news at 4. And I should say 2 more guests that will be joining us from Roaring Table Brewery. I am happy to introduce Beth May and Lane Fearing, the owners of Roaring Table. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us.
We so appreciate it. So we do want to give our viewers a little bit of background, but there will be a fundraiser for Reach Rescue. And Reach Rescue is a pet rescue in Mundelein. We have covered Reach Rescue here on Fox 32 before. They actually took in dozens of animals after a hoarding situation. This must have been about a year or so ago. Beth and Lane, just tell us a little bit about what is going on right now with Reach Rescue and why you have set out to help.
We adopted 2 dogs from Reach Rescue, and I'm originally from Mundelein, which is where Reach is, where their location is. And Reach, I think probably a few months ago, maybe 6 months ago, announced that they were building a facility, so an adoption facility where people can come in and meet the dogs. And I think they're planning on like housing the dogs and probably having some other types of events at the new facility. And so we are huge animal lovers, my husband Lane and I, and we wanted to do something. You know, this is our first time that we've created a beer that we've canned, and the proceeds will go towards an animal rescue. And we chose Reach, given that we've adopted 2 dogs from them.
Oh my goodness. And I see you have the cans there. Can you show us, just hold them up and tell us a little bit more about the product?
This is we built 2 labels for each 4-pack, so you get a variety pack, but it's all the same beer. But it's a New Zealand style pale ale. We use what I call Fancy House from Diameter, and it's a very distinctive flavor, very different than American house. So it's a lot of fun. We wanted to do something really special for this batch. We called it Flock Eagles, and a friend of Beth, who's a wonderful illustrator, created these labels for us, so you can see that dogs formation there. So it's going to be exciting.
And we're releasing this beer tomorrow at the tap room, and we're going to be donating $4 from every 4-pack back to Reach. And we're having a series of events starting tomorrow on Tuesday and going all the way till Saturday. And all of those events will be raising money for Reach as well. And additionally, on Saturday, we're having a huge outdoor event on our patio. Like, hopefully the weather cooperates, but Reach will be here with adoptable dogs. We're having a photo booth. We're going to have some activities for kids. We're going to have live music. And our chef is making some special pup-tastic menu. And it should be a lot of fun. We're really excited about it.
And I know the goal is to raise $5,000. How much do the beers cost, and what percentage of the proceeds will go to Reach Rescue?
I think we're doing, it's a quarter of, it's 25% basically. And the 4-packs cost $15.99. And then I think we're doing $2 for every pint. So every draft pour you get $2 will go back to Reach. We're going to have a fabulous raffle basket that we'll be collecting money for, that somebody will get at the end of the week on Saturday. And we're doing, tomorrow night is a paint and sip, so you can buy tickets on our website. You can come in, paint some portraits of your dog. The beer is released tomorrow as well. On Wednesday, we're having a live caricature artist here who's nationally recognized, and he's going to be doing caricatures of your pet. We also have a link on our website for that. And on Thursday, we're donating 10% of all of our sales back to Reach. And then on Saturday is our big outdoor event.
And tell me a little bit about, some of those other events that you have, because you have it going through this Saturday, right, on August 29th?
Yes.
Oh, Lane, we can't hear you very well.
Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Beth.
Okay, so Saturday we're calling it Flocka Beagle Fest, and we have a very large outdoor patio here at Roaring Table, and Reach will be here with, I believe, 6 adoptable dogs, and they'll also be here. You can learn more about them and learn more about the other pets. They have a lot of dogs and cats, and I think rabbits actually as well for adoption at their facility in Mundelein. So they're going to be here. That's going to be the start of it. At 1 p.m., we're having a photo booth, which is going to run for 3 hours. So you can come take fun photos, like an old school photo booth, and walk away with, little printouts of that. And then we are having, we did coloring pages with the artwork from the cans. So, and we're going to be giving away, crayons on these coloring pages so kids can draw. We also have several outdoor games that we have on, every weekend. We have some fire pits as well. And we're going to have live music starting at 6. And then our chef is making a series of, fun menu items. We're going to have pup cups for the dogs that are free, dog treats. And we're hoping to get a local dog biscuit company to participate as well. I'm still working on that.
And I have to ask, what are your dogs' names and what kind of dogs? I know you said you did adopt them from Reach Rescue.
Oh, we have 2 dogs. They're both 2 years old, so they're only 6 months apart. Reach thought we were insane when we came back for the second dog after only 6 months. We have Charlie Brown is our, he's the older one, and he is he's a mix, basically. He's a herding dog mix. And then we also have Rocket, who is, I think he's the younger one, and he is a cattle dog mix. So they're both very high energy because they're both herding breeds. And then we have another dog at home as well, who's a little bit older, who we didn't get from Reach, but he was also a rescue. So they have a lot of fun, and they keep us very tired all the time.
I bet. And you are celebrating this month 9 years of the business, Roaring Table Brewery. Why is it important for you to hold events like what you're holding this week when you give back to the community? Why is that something that that you find important?
The focus here is really going to be a huge package brewery, and so the community we've built over the last 9 years is such a idea of who we are. So we've been doing events since we started in SMC. But it's really fun to see the same faces, the same dogs, and showing up at these different events. And people look forward to it. We certainly have a lot of fun, and it's just a great opportunity to take a break from all the work that everybody has to do and get together, have a few beers, enjoy yourself, and hopefully do something good for racing dogs. And we love them, so it's a win-win for everybody involved.
All right. Thank you both so much for joining. We so appreciate your time.
Thank you. We really appreciated it.
All right. Thank you. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Thank you so much for watching on this Monday afternoon. We have unpacked a lot of topics today, and we appreciate you joining us and being with us. But the news continues on the news at 4, followed by the news at 5, and of course, again, later tonight at 9. Thank you so much for watching, and we will leave you with this shot of the bean.
Live from Chicago, this is Fox 32 News